I have now finished the letter K. Today is August 12th, 2022. Um, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've now finished another letter. I have to do the letter N next. I think that's what I'm going to do next. But this is the letter K. This is one of the most complex letters I've had to do. There was a lot of revision going on here. I think it's good. I think I'll have to scrub it later on, but I'm going to show you the original. So the general focus of the original is still present in this one, but I did a lot of revision work. This upper horn is very different. This area is kind of similar, but it's been constrained. I squeezed it in using guides. This horn is very different. This leg is very similar, but it's again been moved and tweaked. So I'm going to turn on the overlay, and we're gonna kind of very quickly go over this. So the most confusing thing is this section right here that we're looking at. You can see a lot of like outline where the black is, and then the green, which obviously makes this very difficult to look at. But effectively, I drew it out over the drawing. I vectorized the drawing, and then I was cutting the shape in specific points and then rotating it to kind of fit the positioning that I needed it to fit. So if I turn this off and I show you what I mean, so there's what I call a pivot point where you can grab like a corner right here and effectively a corner like say right here. If I can select those, I got those selected. Now I'm just going to kind of demonstrate this. I'm not going to actually, leave it like this. But now watch what happens. This whole thing is one piece. Oh, hang on. Come on. There we go. And so I've now removed it, and I can rotate it however it is I want. So what I did was I drew it. Is this? Yeah, there we go. Okay, I just hit Control Z a bunch of times just to make sure I didn't damage the letter. So what I did was I drew the original version, and then I started rotating the parts. But the original version is basically there. It's just been rotated. A lot of like little tweaks to kind of tighten up how the shapes intersect. You have to really spend time doing that. It kind of drives you crazy because there's so much little monotony and adjusting and tweaking and tweaking back and forth, doing, redoing, undoing, so on and so forth. It's very hard to solidify a final version, and it takes a lot of time just going back and forth. So a couple of things between the new one that's kind of interesting. I'm going to show you the guides. So you can see I've laid a bunch of guides. So this one right here, which I'm going to select, I'm going to unlock, and I'm going to release it. And then now I'm going to make it into a line, and I'm going to change the color of it to red. There we go. It's like a dark red. So you can clearly see where that line is, and then, whoops, grab this one, release, make it that, and there it is. It's 0.75. I'm just going to make it bigger. Okay, so you can see those two guides. So you can tell that this lower area is not constrained by this line, but the upper area is. This upper stem is kind of constrained by it. And I really spent a lot of time debating that because I wanted to make this a consistent panel stroke that was the size of these two lines here. And you can see that this whole area is outside of it. But I was able to justify that, like to rationalize it, because it had more to do with the stroke of everything. So I'm going to lock this and go to this layer and do brush and turn that on. Yes. So those two stars simply mean that I hadn't finished those areas yet. Those are paths. I'm going to move those. Those are dots. And get rid of those. Perfect. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to here and do brush. So this is kind of like a shitty version of the stroke. There we go. It's supposed to be kind of like that. So I don't mind that it sticks out because that's kind of like a horseshoe shape that I'm trying to get. And I just drew that real quick with my computer mouse, not with my stylus. So it's a little bit rough, but the idea was to make like a cool sort of flowing horseshoe shape down there and to make it arch the way I wanted it to. I spent a lot of time on this letter, probably 40 something hours, realistically, going back and forth. This took several weeks to do. And been just slowly chipping away at letters. Some cool things. There's like a secret little letter N right here. If I go back to brush and I make it smaller, and I'm actually going to use the stylus right now. It's kind of like a weird little letter N. Like so. And then there's kind of like a little horn up there, and that to me kind of makes me think of this. You know? Let me make this brush much smaller. It's kind of like this shape right here. It's kind of like that. There's like a weird little letter N that I see in there. There's all kinds of weird little pocket shapes is what I call them. Shapes within shapes. That just kind of accidentally emerged. At first I really didn't like this shape right here, but it's kind of like a weird trident shape, so I kind of like it now. Because it's a three-prong shape. You've got a prong, got a prong here, 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 you know. Got a lot of cool stuff going on with this. I don't know. This one was interesting. This one was really interesting. It took a long time to figure out. I'm really proud of this lower leg. I'm really proud of this kind of crown that's here. I'm very proud of this. I rotated this many, many times. Drew it as an overlay, rotated it, did more work filling in the overlay, broke it apart, rotated it, kept breaking it apart into sub-composite shapes, rotating it until finally it became what it is. If I show you the overlap, you can see that the point that I used versus the original one is very different, but the shape is generally the same. It's just the positioning was different. So whenever I do this, there's a lot of like building and revising. And this isn't really even the final draft, because what's going to happen is I'm going to place all the letters into a sentence. So the quick brown fox jumped over the fence. What is it? The quick brown fox jumped over the fence. There's a sentence, I can't quite remember the sentence. It's like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog that was sleeping by the fence or something like that. But it's a sentence that uses every single letter of the alphabet. And the idea, so there's this concept in 3D printing called a benchy. Hang on, let me just bring this over. This is like an aside within an aside. I've been listening to the Brothers Karamazov while writing. I'm on volume 19. Here we go. Benchy boat. So a benchy is a boat that you make in 3D printing, and it's designed to test the radius and overhangs and all the various shapes that a 3D printer is supposed to be able to complete. So if you can make a clean benchy print, your 3D printer is correctly set up, right? So like here's a bad version of a benchy. It's got all of this weird overhang and it's not working right. This is a clean benchy. This is a clean benchy. If you can make a clean, like, see, this is a bad benchy. Yeah, see, first ever benchy versus latest benchy, right? This is like you learning how to calibrate your printer, and this is like a fully calibrated printer. So a benchy is a benchmark test that you do in resin printing to test the quality of the print. So what is going to happen for me in my design process is I'm going to have a benchy test, and the benchy test is I'm going to just grab these two lines. Yeah, these two. Ooh, no, I don't want that. Yeah, there we go. Move these up to layer 3. Yeah, there we go. So a benchy test for this is the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog sleeping by the fence. It's a sentence that has all the letters of the alphabet. So you can compare the letters next to each other in the context of a sentence, and you can see how well the letters blend. And if the letters in their case set kind of blend well, then that's good. And what you do is you do different versions of it. Like, you'll do versions where you capitalize all the letters, and you see how all the capitalized letters fit next to each other. That's if you were to hit caps lock and just start typing. There's versions where you capitalize the first letter of each word. Then there's ones where you just capitalize the very first letter like you would in a typical sentence. So you're doing various comparisons just to figure out like how your letters gel together so that the font has a flow to it. And that's going to be the final evaluation. And I'll probably do some more tweaks at that point to make things fit together. But that's kind of like the last phase. As it is for now, I'm basically approaching that phase. I'm pretty happy with how this letter has turned out. If I turn this layer off and just look at it, I'm very happy how this turned out. I think that it looks good. I think that it's what I want out of a graphic. This is kind of what I want my graphic letters to look like. I'm very happy with it. It took a lot of time, but I'm very happy with the result. Like I said, there'll probably be more work on it. I'm not worried about that though, because I kind of anticipate and expect that. This was one of the hardest letters for me to do though, and I'm proud that I got it done. It's very complex. There's another thing right here, like this is a bat wing shape. This is a bat wing shape. If I turn this on again and go to here, go to the brush tool. Actually, I'm going to go direct select. I'm going to delete that line. Go back to the brush tool. I'm going to lock this so I don't fuck anything up. So to me, this shape here, whoops, I got to put the keyboard in my lap so I can do the hotkeys. This shape kind of here, resembles a pair of like bat wings, and like there's a weird little like creature sitting in that middle shape. That's something that I came up with. There's a lot of really cool symmetry in this lower leg. Like this whole lower leg is really symmetry. It's like tribal-esque. It reminds me of like a totem pole. Like this area kind of looks like eyes. Like if you had an eyeball right here, like an eyeball like that, those look like eyes. So anyway, I feel really reinvigorated. I mentioned earlier that I went on a trip to Tahoe and I was feeling really burnt out and unhappy with things. And now I'm feeling a lot better because I got a lot of work done this year. When I went to Tahoe, I brought with me my entire back catalog of projects, and I looked at all of the work that I had been doing, and I was proud of it, but I was also kind of like intimidated by the stuff that I hadn't finished. But in the process of going through it, I found all of my sketches from my figure drawing class. So what I did was I scanned them all up and uploaded them to Flickr. And I think eventually I'm going to subscribe to Flickr Pro, because you get to get rid of those blank pages, and you also get to improve like the overall quality of your Flickr profile. But what I want to do is go back to taking art lessons again and review some of these lessons that I was taught by Noah Buchanan, and kind of get back into it again. And I'm just really proud that, I did all of this work, because it was really difficult to do this. Um, this one's goofy, like he's got a lazy eye. This guy I drew has like a crazy, goofy, lazy eye. I wasn't very good at making things symmetrical, because I didn't fully understand how to do it. But, I did it. It was bad. It was lumpy and sloppy and not exactly the most, productive or whatever. There's some like notes here on figure drawing, lots of written notes and stuff, and just like gestures and working on like the geometrics of a human head. There's like 40 something images. That's a project that I'm working on right now that I have to finish. But let's go back to the photo stream. But this is like a lot of the stuff I've did. This is stuff from 2017 that I did in a design class when I was just learning how to use Illustrator and Photoshop. I made a photo based off of this one. This is Alphonse Mucha, who's basically my favorite artist. He's the father of Art Nouveau. And this is kind of my little tribute to him that I did for my class. Very proud of it. It was just me learning how to make shapes in Illustrator, and working in shapes. This is another one. This was a catfish. I just wanted to do something that looked kind of like an organic animal. It looks kind of like a painting, actually, but those are all just weird little poly shapes that I made in Illustrator to try and create, depth. And then I just, I used a gradient mesh for each of those shapes, and then I color picked to make it have that painterly quality, and that's how I did it. It looks like a weird, bad Photoshop painting, but, that's as far as I could get with it. But I'm proud of the work I did in that class, even though technically I failed it. I'm proud of the work I did because I feel like I accomplished something. I didn't actually fail the class. I withdrew from it. Effectively, what was happening is I was dead broke, and I was looking for a job, and, things just weren't working out, and I had to kind of like change priorities. I had already graduated from school, and I really needed to find work and start earning income. And that was around the time I started substitute teaching. It was just a big transition to go from being a full-time student to trying to be a working professional. It's a difficult transition that not everyone succeeds at making. A lot of people just kind of mentally collapse under the weight of having to become an actual, working professional. And when they collapse, they either just, totally degenerate, or they go into academia and just become career academics because it's safer that way. And that's not what I wanted to do. So it's ironic that I'm back in academia, because like that was never my intention. I always wanted to be a careerist, and I always thought the idea of being a teacher, becoming a teacher, was kind of like a failure or a letdown. But now it's kind of like a social safety net, and what I'm really doing is trying to pursue, these projects that I've been doing. Everything that's here, and then I'm going to be uploading images of my letters to Flickr. Very soon I'll be uploading all of these drafts. What I'm going to do is just put a very simple stroke, fill, and background, like I've talked about in my previous videos, and just upload templates of these letters to Flickr just to demonstrate that I'm getting letters done. And that'll be another thing that I just keep working on. Um, so yeah, just a quick update. But the last thing I was going to say about Tahoe was that while I was there, I did a bunch of work, posted some photos to Instagram of some of my work, my drawings. But while I was working on those drawings, which were transfers of famous comic book characters like Jean Grey and Black Cat and John Wick and Spider-Man and so forth. In the process of doing those transfers, I also looked at all my unfinished projects from my backlog. Like for example, this this snake image here is something that I've been working on technically since 2010, and it's part of this project called Clarity that I never really finished. I got really close to laying out the design, but I never really finished it because I just didn't know how to go about it. And now I kind of want to change it a little bit because I don't feel satisfied with the previous version that I had made. I feel like the previous version I made is very gray and bland, maybe a bit amateurish, and I have a desire to make a better version of this. Um, and the better version I want to make is going to require some work, but I want to do a better version. And I think I can. It's just going to take some more effort on my part to make it work, but I'll be able to do it. Um, so I'm going to do this one over again. Woo, that's so exciting. The way I'm going to do it over again, though, is not actually as exhaustive as I'm describing. What I'm probably going to do is just take the image that I already have completed and do some Photoshop work on it because I don't have the time, resources, energy, or really luxury to just completely scrap this project and do it over again. That's just too self-indulgent. So at this point, I'm just going to move forward as best as I can with what it is I've got. And I'm going to try and blend it as best as I can, make it work, make it work, make it work. That's my philosophy, is make it work. And there's another graphic that's supposed to be in this negative space and this negative space here. And I'm supposed to, have additional graphics in this. Obviously, in the corners, there's more graphics. There's actually one in this corner, 2, 3, 4. So 4 per corner. So there's actually 16 original graphics. There's the tiny corner triangles, which are a cycle of 4. There's the cycle of 8 sort of rounded triangles, if that makes sense. And then there's the 4 circles. So there's a 4, 8, 4 cycle. And that's something I'm working on. And that would basically finish the graphic. And then, of course, the font that I've made would be how I would put the text on this. So it's all coming full circle, but it's taken more than a decade since, the inception of this project, which was on a piece of printer paper done with like a shitty marker pen that I just kind of scribbled out. It's coming full circle from that, and I'm proud of that. But it's also like it's come a long ways from that, but it's also been very difficult. And I'm just going to make the most of it and do what I can with it and make it look good and work well. And that's it. So I now have a computer that's strong enough to handle this file. That was one of the other reasons why I had trouble with this project, is that this file was too big to manage. And now that's not the case, which is great. I can actually finish this and not necessarily be losing my mind. I can actually finish this and feel like, hey, this is gonna get done. So yeah, that's basically it. This was supposed to be a quick update, but I ended up talking for 25 minutes. I don't regret the fact that it took me so long to get through these projects and to make this forward progress. I don't regret any of that. I've been busy, I've been working, I've been moving. It hasn't been for a lack of effort. It's just been simply a very long, strange journey to get to where it is I am now. But yeah, more soon, and thanks for sticking with me throughout this whole journey. Sometimes I've had better days, sometimes I've had worse, but I'm feeling a bit more optimistic and refreshed towards my work, which is, I think, a good sign of things to come. Um, so yeah, if you ever feel like you're stuck in the trenches and you're losing, sight of your goals, take a step back. I went to Tahoe for 8 days. That was a bit of a luxury, but I just went to Tahoe for 8 days. Stayed at my parents' house up there. We have a small cabin up there, and I just stayed there for 8 days in isolation, thinking and reflecting. And I was able to find the clarity of mind, the peace of mind, and the clarity and focus I needed to move forward with this. So I'm grateful for that. I'm Keenan Fry. This is the Acid Drip. Thanks for sticking around for this update. I'll see you again next time. Take care and peace.